In this skills demonstration, I'd like to show you how we do simple arithmetic processing in App Inventor. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call it Arithmetic. Remember, arithmetic is we're just going to be doing some math here. Okay. Let's go ahead and create this guy. Let's see. To start off with, I'm just going to do something very basic. I'm going to ask the user for two numbers. I'm going to add them together, and I'm going to display the result. So I'm going to provide a text box for input, another text box for input for the second number. I'm going to have a button, and the button is going to say add. And I'm going to provide a label that's going to be my result. Okay. So the user should enter a number in here, enter a number in here, press the add button, and you should see the result of those two numbers added together up here below. When the button's pushed, I need to get those two values, add them together, and put the result as the text for this label. Yeah? Okay, let's see how that works. So, when the button's pushed, what do I need to do? I need to get the text property from the text box 1, and I need to get the text property from label 2, and I need to add them together. And the mathematical operations are all built in. They're in this blue menu here. Let's see where addition is, all the way at the top here. Here's a block. And notice it's got two holes in it where I can add two numbers together. So a number is going to be stored in that text box. I'm going to snap that in there. And text box 2, I'm going to add that one together. And now what I've got is a block that has the value of the result of adding these two numbers together. And what do I want to do with that result? I wanted to put it back into that label, right? So set the text of label 1 to that value. Okay, I'll stick that in my listener now. So when button 1 is clicked, set the text property of label 1 to add together text box 1's text and text box 2's text. Let's see that in action. Okay, so I'm going to type in a value here. It's got text, so I'm going to type in a 5, and I'm going to change that to 7. 5 plus 7 to add together is 12. Pretty straightforward. But I can make it a little bit better, can't I? One thing that's kind of annoying is here, when I start to type in this text box, it's expecting text, right? But I'm not going to add together G and K. I want to add together numbers. So what I'd like to be able to do is tell this text box that it should be receiving numbers. Is there a way I can do that? Let's take a look. Look at my designer. And maybe there's a property that's going to help me out. It's going to say this text box is mostly numeric data. Oops, text box 1. Ah, yeah, it's numbers only. And text box 2 is numbers only. Let's see what that does now for me. If I go to my screen here, when I enter text box 1, now notice it gives me the numeric keypad. That's much better, isn't it? Add them together and get my result. Good. Oops. So, what else can I do? I'm going to go back to my blocks editor. Notice in my math tab here, I've got all the basic arithmetic operators you would expect to see. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. I can raise to a power. I can generate some random numbers. We'll get to that later. And then there's all those kind of extended functions on your calculator. I can compare two numbers and give me the minimum or the maximum. Notice it's got two holes here. So I can plug in two values, and it's going to give me a value back, which is either the larger or the smaller, depending upon which function I select. I've got square root, absolute value. All of those kind of extended functions, sine, cosine, are in here. So anything math related, I can look in this math drawer for pieces that help me out with doing mathematical operations. Now, one thing I want you to notice is on this addition block, I've got this blue box here. What do you suppose that does? Let's click on that. It lets me modify that addition block, right? By default, addition takes two numbers as input. If I drag this in here, now you'll notice it's got the ability to add three numbers together, all in one shot. So I could do addition of addition, like that. But that gets kind of clumsy after a while. Addition of addition, I want to add four numbers together. Addition of addition of addition. I could do it that way, or I could simply create a new addition block that takes four numbers as input. That's a little bit nicer, isn't it? You'll notice that not all of the blocks have that. Addition has it, multiplication has it. Subtraction, division, they don't have those. Why is that? Well, because order matters, right? Another thing that's important when we do math is this idea of order of operations. You'll notice that there are no parentheses in here. The way the blocks are structured, we kind of inherently have an order of operations. So if I wanted to take an average of three numbers, right? I've got to make sure I add three numbers together and then divide by the total number of numbers, right? And a common mistake is I may add the first two numbers together. Let's do something different. Let's go out here for a second, and I'm going to create an app that does an average. So I'm going to add three text boxes together. Now it's numbers only also. I'm going to change this so it says average. Okay. So now what I want this app to do is to take the three numbers, add them together, and compute the average. Or take the three numbers as input and compute the average. So why don't you pause the video for a second and see if you can write the code that does that. And then I'll join you here in a second. Okay, here's my solution. I'm going to take those three numbers. I'm going to take this addition block here, and I'm going to take one of those out. So I'm going to add three numbers together. I'm going to add together text box 1, text box 2. I'm going to cheat here a second. I'm going to copy this guy, right-click him, I'm going to duplicate him, and I want text box 3. It's text. Right? I'm going to take those three, I'm going to add them together, and then I'm going to divide all by, how many numbers are there? There's three of them. So I need a way of expressing 3. I'm going to use that literal value 3. And there's my average function. Okay. Now, one thing you have to be careful about when you're doing math sometimes is order of operations. Right? I want to make sure that I add those three numbers together first and then divide by 3. If I just followed strict order of operations, if I wrote this out by hand, there's a danger I might take that number and do my division first and then add these two numbers onto it. We often solve that using parentheses, but notice there's no parentheses in App Inventor. But the blocks kind of act as implicit parentheses. The fact that I've got that all in one block together means I'm going to do all that as one unit. And then I'm going to take that number and divide by 3. Okay, so parentheses aren't really necessary. Let's see, does this work? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in 3 values. Let's see, 10, 10, and 10. Average is 10. Oh, that's good. 15. 15, 15, 15, and 15, 15, and 10. Let's see, 15, 15, and 11. Let's do 12. Right? Okay, good. So it's giving me the nice average function there. and that should get you started with some arithmetic processing in App Inventor.